The strengths of Roizen's network can be seen at all stages in her career. At Tandem, Roizen developed relationships early with senior leadership, which gave her opportunities. Her early education in business was based on her relationship with the CEO and being in those monthly top management meetings. These yielded her leverage as being the gatekeeper to be able to speak with the CEO and also provided her with a recommendation letter that contributed to her attending Stanford for her master's in business. Even at Stanford, she leveraged those contacts later and kept in touch with them, but further broadened her network by not going into the world of finance like the rest of her peers and instead going into IT, where she would develop a whole new network. Now she had her Stanford peers, some of which would undoubtedly be successful in the world of finance, and soon a new network in IT. At Teammaker is where Rosen really kicked up her networking skills into high gear and started leveraging this network regularly. She looked on any and all opportunities to grow her network, which gave her free publicity and notoriety that the company desperately needed. As a byproduct of this was that as the head of this initiative, she also received recognition and notoriety right along with the company. She gained great respect on all these panels, and so now reviewers and writers were putting out the information she wanted them to write about since she harbored such goodwill from all of them. All the effort doing interviews, speaking on panels, chairing committees, etc. helped her get the company off the ground despite not wanting to go into any debt. Looking specifically at this point in her career, you can see that she is a node in a major network that is connecting multiple other networks from the various panels she participated in or the boards that she was a part of. Next, while working at Apple, you can see the strengths in Roizen's network really mature into a network of people helping other people. She was in a great position of power and responsibility at the company, and now she was wielding the influence and respect she had gained over the years with her network of peers as a day-to-day part of her job. She was able to get people to buy into what she was saying and stake millions of dollars in their companies to stay on as Apple developers, despite the tough times that Apple was going through. Once Roizen was at SoftBank, you see the strengths of her network, which is even recognized by SoftBank as one of the reasons they hired her. At this point, I don't feel that Roizen's network is growing quite the same as in other stages in her career, which is part of the dilemma that she feels. The strength and growth is limited by the job she has and its influences on her priorities. She still goes further than most, though, in replying to all applicants and giving them advice despite it not having any immediate return for the company. Due to her network, she's also able to tap on the large pools of talent and support the startups that she is responsible for, and pulling on unlimited talent, which is mentioned as a problem in Silicon Valley. Module 5 concepts are easily seen throughout the career of Roizen. First, Roizen is easily categorized as a giver. Throughout her career, you can see she constantly strives to give as much as she can to those around her. With her always leaning forward in the world of giving, not just being a matcher, Roizen opens up the door to the majority of the people who are matchers to feel safe with her and want to give if the opportunity ever arose. She also started off many of these relationships giving and asking nothing in return, which helped create weak networks of people all having goodwill and positive feelings towards Roizen. This large, weak network, instead of a strong, small network, helped her greatly in her positions at Apple and SoftBank to be able to call in those favors without even having to give it a second thought, since she was doing it from the perspective of a giver who is less apprehensive to ask for help. As a successful giver, she was willing to ask for help when she needed it, and her success cascaded out to all those around her. As a giver, Roizen didn't believe life was a zero-sum game, and by giving so much to those around her, she made everyone successful and also made the pie bigger for everybody. Though she didn't get back necessarily as much as she put in, there was far more for everybody, including herself. She wasn't necessarily a selfless giver, though, and ensured that she was giving in the areas that gave the best bang for the buck due to her limited time in a day. She did give to a huge multitude of people, though, so as Linus Pauling stated in How to Build Your Network, the best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of them. Looking specifically at her time at Teammaker, you can see that she is a node in a major network that is connecting multiple other networks from the various panels she participated in or boards that she was a part of. While at Apple, she exhibited traits of a superconnector and was successful at tapping into multiple larger networks full of talented people that now have a positive relationship with her and like her, one of the principles talked about in harnessing the science of persuasion. This, of course, all added to her level of power and influence. Throughout her career, the case study mentions how she spent time on all people she found interesting, not just useful or powerful, which led to her authenticity, and also broadened her network, which, since many of these relatively small time people she met early on would become major players in the years ahead, which she needed later in her career. Sometimes, something she was doing at Apple was getting outside of her immediate area of focus and helping with multiple other projects across the company. She quickly established her reputation as an authority on the types of decisions that were being made, which allowed her to persuade people in the directions she recommended to steer the company. During this time, she was also holding lots of dinner parties, with a primary focus, though, on benefiting those whom she invited and not on her own personal gain. By cooking herself for the parties, she showed herself to be vulnerable, which added to her authenticity and influence with her network. This made people glad and honored to be a part of these gatherings, which of course further helped her reputation and network. While at SoftBank, she pulled back from some of her work that made her a superconductor and instead started to leverage the people she knew were nodes in large networks to help her be more efficient with her networking time, but still have access to the areas that she would need for her duties. At the end of her time at Apple and at her current position at SoftBank, it appears that Roizen may be approaching a point of job burnout due to being deprived of the rewards that she finds most energizing. The limits that being a venture capitalist with the strict rules enforced by SoftBank don't allow her to give all to all indiscriminately, and instead to go against some of the principles that make her who she is and also helped her get to where she is today.